welcome. Today we're talking to my good friend Seth, but I don't know everything about you. I know about you. I know you're a very interesting guy, but I want to learn more about you, specifically about like your past, how you got into music, how you got into entrepreneurship, how you deal with the relationship dynamics that you've been diving into now, and your new transition into life. So I'm just excited to have a conversation with you, brother. So tell everybody a little bit about you, your backstory, if you could.
So my name's Seth Dyer. I do many things. That I originally come from the music business. Speaking about, my past, my history, I'm from Toronto, Canada. I was born to Jamaican immigrants, which was great. My parents were both very tough on me in the way that Jamaicans are, and I think it was really great for me. I got into music at the age of 15, and I did everything myself. I was a producer, an artist, an engineer, a singer, mastering, mixing, marketing, everything I learned to do on my own. Eventually got a job as an engineer, working with different clients and different people in the city, and I got the chance to work with some celebrities. And I tell people most of what I know about relationships, know about business, entrepreneurship, I learned from navigating the music industry, because the music industry is a people industry. So yeah, it's a little bit about me. Now I'm into various businesses. Mainly I'm running I'd call it a personal development program called The Next Realm. I help people absolutely transform their lives. 2 years ago, I was incredibly broke, and I help people do the same.
So in that like transition, so like there was many years where you were making money.
Mm.
What made you kind of realize that like there's a better way to not only make money but to manage your money more importantly?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'd say in 2021, before 2021, so about 2016 to around 2020-ish, I was making some money engineering in the music business, and my music was getting some streams, and I was getting a little pay from that. It wasn't nothing crazy, but I was able to live, right? And around 2020, when like COVID hits, all the studios shut down. So work's done, right? I start getting incredibly broke because I didn't save any money. I didn't manage my money well at all. I was sleeping on the basement floor of my girlfriend's parents' house, right? I was just broke. I was like, man, what the hell am I going to do to be able to change my life, right? I had a friend, a business partner who was great with money, right? And I knew that I needed to change the circle of people I had in my life, because you are the sum of the five people that you spend the most time with, right? We all know this. And I didn't have the people around me who were actually trying to like elevate themselves and get more money and make things happen. So I asked my friend, I'm like, hey man, can I borrow some money to get into a couple of these online communities so I can, like learn to do something with my life, And he, being a great friend, he was like, yeah, I'll lend you some money. It's like, really? It's like, yeah, I'll lend it to you. And I paid him back within about 3-4 months. I paid him back, and it was all just like who you know. I ended up meeting a lot of people with a lot of wealth and realized that money is not the solution to everything. Everyone has problems, you know what I mean? So like some people got problems with their relationships, some people got problems with their mentality, some people got problems with their health, and I could help them. I didn't realize this. I was like, what does some multimillionaire have to learn from me? But I learned very quickly that I had skills that were valuable that I could be paid for. So
was it like putting yourself like just out there, right? Because like we often put ourselves in like a bubble of like, okay, well, these are the people that I surround myself, and they all know kind of similar things that I know.
Mm-hmm.
But then you talk to other people in other communities, and they're like, oh, they don't know this stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it could really benefit their life, really, because I often think that I forget that sometimes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I forget that, like, the things that I know, because I see them every day. I think about them all day.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody should know.
It's normal.
It's just normal,
Yeah.
right? So, like, by putting yourself out there and then just, like, allowing yourself to communicate what you already know, that's kind of what allowed yourself to feel like, oh, I actually know something from the experiences I put in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. I used to think that because I made a lot of money from relationship coaching, right? So I used to think that the time I spent in relationships and running around with women and all this stuff, when 2021 came and I was on the basement floor, I was like, I wasted a lot of my damn time, you know. But it just so happens that it taught me a lot of skills that I ended up being able to monetize later on down the road. So it wasn't necessarily a waste of time, you know. Now, I'm not encouraging you to run out and deal with a bunch of women, okay? But there are better uses of your time. But
Well, it's the ability to assimilate knowledge from other people's experiences, right?
Yes.
So if you're able to take the information that somebody else had to go through those pains, you know, like I had to go through a lot of pain in my life. I don't want you to go through the same.
Exactly.
So why don't you learn from people that have already went through that?
Yeah, learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
Experience is a fantastic teacher, but other people's experience can be an even better teacher.
You don't have, yeah. We only learn through experiences, but it doesn't have to be yours.
Exactly, exactly. So, yeah, it was then like, realizing, okay, I have a skill for this and I can make some money off of this. And exposing myself to new people absolutely changed my perspective because I would get into rooms or conversations with people and they're talking about, oh yeah, we just did a $250,000 deal here. We did a $2 million oil and gas deal here. We did this deal here. And it was just nonchalant, right? It was just normal. And I was like, well, if people are talking about money normal like this and I'm just trying to make $200, what the hell am I thinking? Like, you know? So it absolutely changed my perspective. And it also kind of, it like forces you to move up. So there was a dinner that I was going to, and I knew that the people I was going with, we were going to buy the most expensive things on the menu. And there was no way I wasn't going to be able to pull my weight or pay my fair share, right? So I figured out how to get the money to be at that dinner. It pulled me up. It pushed me up, right? Simply because my circle was different.
It's like the thermostat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was key, you know, super key.
What do you think one of the most beneficial lessons you learned kind of in the music industry that you were kind of just not aware of, especially in like high school and, you know, all that stuff?
That's a really good question. You know what? It's people, relationships, because I was very much a lone wolf individual for a very, very good chunk of my life because I'm a self-reliant guy. I was like, when I originally got into music, I was like, okay, I don't have money to pay for big studio time, so I have to figure out how to record myself. I have to figure out how to produce. I have to figure out how to do this and that and that and this on my own. So I developed this character trait of like, I can do everything myself, right? Which self-reliance is a good character trait to have, but you need people. You will get to a point where you hit a ceiling that you cannot break without the assistance of other people. So I started to learn that, like, yeah, you need relationships. And I looked at the people who were the most successful. It's not like they were in their house all the time recording. They had a team. And I think that was probably one of the most important lessons in terms of the music business. And then also just learning how to build good relationships. The thing about a lot of people when you talk about relationships and networking, they try and do everything so fast. Like, oh, I met this guy, let's get into business, bang, 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 now. They don't understand that a relationship takes time to cultivate. Yeah. There are some people that I met, kept good relations with, and it wasn't until maybe a year or two later that something business-wise happened out of it, you know?
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because I was actually just talking to John about this, was like the person who can think about tomorrow over today will always beat the person that's thinking about today, and the person that's thinking about 100 years from now will always beat the person that's thinking about tomorrow.
Yep.
Like the further you can look out to the time horizon of like, well, how would you treat this relationship if it was still going 100 years from now?
Yep.
How would you treat this business if it was still going 100 years from now versus like, I need to have this money tomorrow or whatever it may be? You're going to make a different decision, even about your life. You know, like I was very fortunate because the industry that I was in at 22 years old, I was thrown into talking to 65, 70-year-old people every single day. So I was able to literally see my future decisions every single day. And most people don't have that ability or I guess luck. In my scenario, I think of it as luck. I was very lucky and fortunate. I was like, holy shit, I can see the future. Yeah. I literally can see the future. And unfortunately, most of the time it's like a future you don't want. And that's actually more powerful,
Yeah.
right? Because like, oh, I don't want to end up like these people. I don't want to end up broke. I don't want to end up not understanding how money works, understanding human dynamics, relationships, understanding, just my health, my body, my mind, being in control of my thoughts. Like, okay, how do I figure this shit out?
Yeah.
This isn't anything that I was taught. So
Yeah.
how do I figure this stuff out?
There's so much things there. Like there's so much things there. One is the time horizons thing. Long time horizons, people that have long time horizons, it's an indicator of success. They can see ahead. So I look at someone like a Elon, right? Elon wants to go to Mars. Elon may not even live to see that, but he's thinking that far ahead. His vision requires him to be a billionaire. His vision requires that sort of money to go that far ahead. You need to be able to look ahead. And the reason I was able to look ahead, even when I was broke, even when I was just navigating the music industry, I always thought long term. And the reason being is a gratitude for life. And here's why. When I was 4-ish years old, I almost died in the hospital from a virus. I had chickenpox accompanied with a flesh-eating disease. And I'm still handsome, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Right? And so in that hospital, I was quarantined off by myself. I heard all the other kids playing and whatnot, and was really faced with the fact at 4 years old that I could die, right? When I left that hospital, it was one of the happiest days of my life. It gives me incredible gratitude, and it lets me know life is important, life is for living. The choices that I make have impacts down the road. So you have to sit and make the right choices and think ahead,
Yeah,
and then the second thing that you mentioned is thinking about the things that you don't want. So many people in like the development space and helping people and personal development and all that type of stuff, they only talk about where you want to go. They only talk about the dreams. When you can draw more fuel from the things that you don't want, people are more motivated by pain than pleasure, right? So if you lose your finger, for instance, you're really going to want to deal with that really quickly, right? As opposed to like, I don't know.
Not losing your finger.
Not losing your finger, right?
Exactly.
So you're really going to want to deal with that. People can actually draw fuel from what they don't want. Me, I think about what I don't want all the time. It gives me power, right?
I actually think it creates a lot of clarity too.
Yeah.
Right. So like I'm sure probably after you've been talking to a lot of these people in your groups, and what's one of the most important, one of the most things that you find out that holds people back is clarity, right? They're like, oh, I don't know exactly what I want to be or who I want to be or what I should do. It's like, well, I didn't know any of that stuff, but I sure as shit knew exactly what I didn't want, right? And like, there's millions of ways to make $1 million, they say, right?
Yeah.
And if you have too many choices, it can be overwhelming and you don't do anything,
Yes.
right? And then that causes way more chaos. But there's really only, like, I tell people, like, maybe 5 or 10 guaranteed ways that life will be terrible, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's really, like, okay, write those out
Yeah.
in detail. But, like, I for sure as shit do not want to end up not knowing how to manage my money, understand macroeconomic. Like, these things are very important. So if I guarantee unsuccess, I better sure as shit not learn anything about money, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
it's okay, reverse engineer all the things that you don't want your life to look like, and that creates clarity. So now all the doors of shit life are closed off, and like, it's almost guaranteed you're going to hit something that's, good, right? If all these doors are closed off, well, okay, well, I just fall and have this six pack, and because all the doors are closed, I didn't want to be not fat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think it's a really good tool that most people just don't think about. And Charlie Munger, we were talking about earlier, that's one of his principles. It was like reverse engineering the not success.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
So
And like there was something you said that reminded me of something where basically self-awareness is a superpower, right? If you have an awareness of yourself, who you are, what you don't want out of life, what you want out of life, when you have that clarity, it makes you win, because the world is constantly trying to drag you into chaos. It's being self-aware. It's a superpower. When you know what you don't want, when you know what you want, when you know who you are, when you know, like me, for instance, there are certain things like I know I'm just not gonna do. Like, I'm just not gonna do things that I deem uncool. I'm just not gonna do them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm aware of myself, and life is constantly trying to draw you into chaos. It's up to you to put your life in order. When you bring order to things, that's when you get success. Money, for instance, loves order, right? If you're too chaotic, you're going to lose a lot of money, right? And it's very easy to get drawn into chaos. You can sit in your bed and sleep all day forever. But if you do that, your life will be chaotic.
Right.
You'll get sick, you won't have money, you'll have bad relationships because it was just easy for you to lay in your bed and do nothing.
Right.
It's easy to just scroll on social media forever, but that will eventually leave your mind and life chaotic. You need to put things in order.
Yeah.
Clarity, self-awareness gives that to you.
Yeah, I think, with that being said, I agree 100%. I literally have on my arm tattooed, calm through chaos,
Yeah.
right? Because I think most men, like, our job, if you can do anything in this world, your job should just be to order the chaos that exists.
Yes.
Whether it's in your brain, in your bedroom, your home, your body, like, there's chaos that's ensuing.
Yeah.
Right? And most of the time it's because of the decisions of our forefathers of thousands of years of biological, evolution telling us that there's a lion trying to eat you, or you're going to be kicked out of the tribe and going to be, killed, all this stuff. And if you don't understand how to control that thought, it will lead you down a path that's actually incorrect for today's day and age, right? Technology grows and evolves way faster than our brains.
Yeah.
And when people try and think that biology is, we can overcome biology, it's like, no, it's very strong. It's very strong.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Biology laughs last, is what they say, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what they say.
For sure.
So I 100% agree with that.
So I am curious though, like I'm obviously we always talk about like self-development stuff, and it's very important, right? But I'm just like curious about like who you are, like why were you attracted to music? Like what brought you to music?
I was always a creative kid. So when I was in kindergarten, which is like 3 to 5 years old, we would have something where it's like, write a story and draw a picture. And I would only draw the picture. I wasn't writing the story. I would only draw the picture, right? And I was just always into doing creative things. I was drawing a lot. Before I got into music, I actually was big into art, just drawing and painting and stuff like that. And my goal was actually to go work for an animation studio, to like go work for Disney or something, but I'm glad I didn't do that. But to work for a company like that, right? And I was into animation heavy till I was from the ages of like 10 to 14, 15. And then I kind of stumbled upon making music. I just had it as a hobby originally. I was I got this program FL Studio, and I was making beats with it, and I was like, this is fun, this is a hobby. And I was making all these beats, and I'm like, I know friends who are like rappers and stuff, but they're not going to say the things I want them to say on these records. So I'm just going to start writing, So I started writing, and then I was like, all right, well, I've written these things. How am I going to actually like make a song? So I started learning on the internet, like, all right, I got to get a microphone, and I got to get things to record myself. Okay, but I don't have any money, so what am I going to do? So I ended up getting a summer job, funny enough, painting murals. It was the craziest summer job, bro. Like, I got a summer job painting murals for this community center, the Girls and Boys Club. And then we painted a mural over there. We painted one at the Scarborough Bluffs. For y'all in Toronto know where that is. There's a mural of 2 big fish down there. We did that. So
you got some paint on the wall.
We did that, yeah. And then I took the money from that summer job, bought myself a computer, bought myself a microphone, bought myself all the things I needed to record. So then I started recording myself, and I'm like, this doesn't sound like the radio. I thought you just like recorded yourself and it's done, it's over, right? No, not the case. You have to learn this thing called mixing. That was a steep learning curve. To get good at mixing took me at least 3 years of like really practicing and getting diligent with it. That was a steep learning curve. But what really helped me is I had a mentor named Fonz. Shout out to Fonz.
The Fonz, baby.
Yeah, shout out to Fonz. So Fonz was my mentor at about 17 years old. And I went over to his studio one time, and I just kind of watched over his shoulder. And I learned a bunch just from like watching someone who already knew what they were doing. So mentorship is really helpful, really important in life in general, Because after I worked with Fonz, or just watched Fonz, my mixes got way, way better. So then, yeah, I was making music. I was putting music into the world. When I look back, when I first started, it wasn't that great. But once again, your circle. So I did a show, I did a performance. It's sometime in the new year, maybe 2016 New Year, right? And or it may have been earlier than that. But there were some people there who were part of a production company that I knew about. So a production company, basically in the music business, they find an artist and they help develop them, essentially. They produce music for them, they get styling done for them, they build a brand for them, they're trying to produce an artist. So these guys all had these hats on, right? All with the same logo. I know who they were. I'm like, okay, these guys are here. I'm interested in networking with them, but I'm going to perform and kill it, and they're going to come talk to me. And that's what happened. So they came and talked to me. They're like, hey, man, you want to come by the studio, check stuff out, whatever? I'm like, sure. I go to the studio. I play them some records. And they're like, yeah, man, this stuff is really good. It's really well put together. It's clean. Who mixed them? Like I did. And then they're like, come back again tomorrow. The head engineer is going to be here playing some stuff. So came back the next day. I was working at Chipotle at that time. By that time, I was working at Chipotle, finished Chipotle, went to the studio. I walked there. It was an hour walk from Chipotle to that studio in the winter. So I walk there, play my music for the head engineer, and he's like, hey, you did this? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you want a job? I'm like, yeah. So he's like, all right, come tomorrow at 5 o'clock. I just sent Chipotle an email right there. I was like, sorry, can't do it anymore. I quit. Like, I quit right there. And the next day showed up, ran a session. It went great. I got paid. And it was like maybe $30 an hour, which was great at the time because Chipotle was paying me like 12. So it's like, oh, I made it. Oh my gosh. Like, this is amazing, you know?
And you never had it, like when you were doing the mixing and learning the mixing, it was more just like, I want to learn this because you wanted to be more of the singer and the artist, right?
Yeah.
You didn't even know that was going to be the skill that was going to get you.
That could get me paid.
That you paid, yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
So yeah, it was just something I developed out of necessity. So then I got a job there, and I got to record a bunch of artists. I went to a bunch of different studios, met a bunch of different celebrities, and at that point, I would say I was really navigating the business. And the people I got to record and the people I was around allowed me to improve my music. I was like, okay, I'm working with this successful artist. Let me see how they maneuver. Let me see what they do. Oh, I can copy that. I can borrow that. Oh, I can use that effect. Oh, this is so dope. You know, so it was really a privilege to get to do that, and it really increased the level of my music. But yeah, that's how I got into music, man. I've always been a creative guy, you know.
What was obviously we all have, the creative side is fun, but like what was like the thing that like most excited you about? Like, was it fame? Was it just like being, because we look up to people because of the way that people look at them, right? Because we want to see how they are looked at.
Yeah.
Like, what was something that like kind of attracted you to that?
I think I got into music because I was trying to prove something to people. I was thinking about this the other day, where I used to have I still kind of do, had the biggest problem with people not listening to me, right? And I don't know, that probably comes from something from my childhood. I'm not sure exactly where, but it probably has something to do with childhood, where I just felt like I wasn't listened to. And I'm like, well, if I make music and I get good at music and put a positive message into the world, then people will listen to me, right? So that's where it came from. And then my goal with music was actually, at the beginning, it was to get like super famous and the girls and blah, blah, blah. But as I maneuvered through the industry, I was like, well, I just want music to pay me a certain amount of money each year, and I could live the lifestyle that I want to live, right? Because there's like different tiers of artists. So there's like a mega superstar artist. There's like a mid-tier artist, which will probably make around like 200 to 500,000 a year, and like low tier where no one makes any money, right? So I was like, if I could get in that mid-tierish range, I think I'd be happy, right? So that's what I was aiming for as I maneuvered more through the industry. But yeah, it really came from like wanting to be listened to, and
be seen.
Feel
significant.
Exactly. Significance.
Yeah,
yes. That's what it is. Significance.
I had the same thing, like, I don't know, growing up, whatever it was, I just saw like, you know, my dad was an alcoholic, but even though he like was kind of chaotic, people still like respected it when he spoke, right?
Yeah,
Like he was respected because he knew, you know, he was chaotic in his, you know, drinking, but like he knew what he was doing, and you know, everything else, he was very, very much a professional. And like his two brothers, his older brothers, were kind of the same thing. Like I call them my three mentors, you know, my dad and my two uncles, because like every time wherever we went, like they weren't obviously like perfect human beings, but there's bits and pieces you can learn from each one of them. And I'm like, they always were admired, or at least when they spoke, people listened to them. Like like you were saying, it's like, I think as a young man, if you need to have that, like, you need to see that and then be like, because like a superhero, right? Like if you see a superhero on TV, you don't really necessarily want to be a superhero, but you want the feeling that when people look at that other person, at that superhero, you want that feeling.
Yes.
You're like, oh, this guy's respected. They're trusted. You know, they're a capable person, right? So yeah, like the journey of us trying to kind of become capable and be significant is deep rooted, I think, in men specifically.
Absolutely. Like my thing is like I drew a lot of fulfillment from performing, because like when I was performing, it's like you're the star, you're there, but it's a value exchange. Performing is a value exchange. Like if I was just on stage there rapping, it wasn't enough. I would have to get the crowd involved. I would have to do call and response. I would have to ask questions, all this type of stuff. But being on stage was like just a great feeling to me, because I felt incredibly significant in that moment, you know? So now I actually derive significance out of different things. I actually derive significance out of helping people. Yeah. You know, out of like assisting people with their lives, assisting people with their mindset, their relationships, their money. I derive more significance out of that now, because I feel like the fame thing, if I'm drawing all my significance out of fame and attention, it never ends. You can always be more famous, right? You can always get more attention, right? It's not necessarily bad to get more, but I don't want to deal with that in a way. I'll always be chasing it, you know?
But I think that's a natural progression, I think, though, right? Like we sometimes speak as if we weren't that person that needed it at the beginning. You know what I mean? So like when I talk to kids, I'm like, or young guys, right? Young guys, I was like, yeah, I'm telling you now that I get a lot of my significance from helping you, right? But when my cup was not full, I couldn't give a shit about you. I guarantee you my empathy was in zero mode, right? Like I needed to become significant for myself first so I could give back. But like, and here's the thing. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that, like, that's what I needed, you know? But like, I just didn't care about myself. So I'm like, how could I like say, oh, well, I get a lot of significance from helping other people? I'm like, I don't even know how to help myself.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Go help yourself first.
It's so true. Like you can't fill from an empty cup, right? And I think of this story that my same boy that lent me the money that we spoke about earlier, he drove a S550 Benz, right? And I was in the car with him one time, and he's like, Seth, you don't need to drive one of these. Like, it's not really all that crazy. You don't need to drive one of these. And in my head, I'm like, how the hell are you telling me? Like, you're driving it. I want one of these, you know? And then now that, you know, I've had some success, made some money, have a nice car, I'm like, I kind of understand what he was talking about.
Well, you understand, but like, and I think the great saying is like, when they say, you know, money won't solve all your problems, which obviously, like, you're an idiot if you...
solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, it solves a shit ton of problems, right? Like, when people say that, I'm like, if you ever think that, like, everything's going to solve all your problems, you're living in a delusional world anyways. But it's like, the second half is like, but I want to figure it out for myself, right? Like, you should go out and figure out what things work, what they don't work. But, like, if you never figure out for yourself, like, and that's why I'll tell people, I'm like, don't watch people that are ahead of you derive what they value now.
Yes.
And try and mold that, right? Like, you should figure out how to become valuable to yourself first in any which way possible, and then obviously you ascend up the levels.
It's true, because even when even with this YouTube stuff I do, I'm like, I'm talking from my experience and I'm talking from where I'm at now, But I understand in life there are certain things you will not understand unless you experience them. It's that especially when it comes to the relationship stuff. Like, I can talk so much stuff about relationships, but I know when I'm talking to a 21-year-old kid, he's not hearing it the same way.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's not hearing it. So I'm like, you're going to experience things, and then you're going to come back and be like, well, you were right, but I needed to experience it.
Yeah.
You know?
At least you go into it with like an open eye, right? Because if you don't even know human dynamics and then it happens, it hurts you a lot more. Like, if like when my friend stole, like one of my best friends stole $20,000 from me when I was in my 20s, I didn't know what like that existed in humans, right?
Tell me about it.
and then if I would have been aware of like just humans and just how they act, it probably still would have happened, you know, but at least it wouldn't have broken me, for a moment, and then have to like refresh of like, why am I here? What people do, But it's like, bad things are still going to happen. It's fine. But like being aware of it and then being able to experience it from a different lens, like a perspective, like things are still going to happen to us, but like because we have the perspective of like, oh, this is just another lesson, on the road to whatever we're doing, you're able to handle it a lot better.
The way I look at it is like you have, when something bad happens, you have a choice in terms of how you will aim your perspective at it, right? So I also had a friend rob a lot of money from me when I was in the music biz, right? I had somebody like, he stole like a salary worth of money, right? And I could look at that and be like, yo, screw that guy, he's a bad person, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, he was always taking money from people. And I just assumed that, he hadn't done it to me. I'd known him for a long time. We were friends, right? That it wouldn't happen to me. But it would happen to it would happen to you, right? Pay attention. And I can look at that situation and be vexed, but I'm not, because I learned from that situation. It's like, believe who people are when they show you who they are. You were over here scamming a whole bunch of people. Why didn't I not think it would happen to me, right? So it taught me a lot of lessons, and I'm not mad about it. And if you don't learn from the bad experiences, you stay stuck in them. So someone might go through a breakup, for instance, and they can just like look at that girl and just be like, oh, I hate her, she did this, and blah, 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 and they'll stay stuck there, and they'll never move. For instance, people get divorced, and they stay stuck on the divorce for 30 years. They never get through it. They never get over it, right? And if they don't get over it, they won't be able to enter a new relationship or a new part of life that is far more fulfilling and far better, because you're not in that situation now.
It's just, what is it like? We all talk about this energy, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so, hippity dippity shit. But it's like, no, if you're spending time thinking about something that no longer serves you, it is sucking energy from other things that you could be focusing on.
Absolutely.
Right? We all have like a limited energy of focus, right? Why would you hold on to something that literally nobody made you hold on to?
Exactly.
Like, I say this all the time. Like, nobody made you do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, unless you're, not in Canada or the United States, like, nobody's making you do anything. You literally don't have to do anything. You could do anything. Anything. But our brains and our whatever is holding us back because we think that we have to do something.
Yeah.
No, you literally don't have to do anything. You don't have to have this nice car. You don't have to have clothes. Like, I could go to Walmart and I could buy a T-shirt once a month for $7, right? And that's all I would need, right? Like, you don't need to do really much of anything. And when people get caught up in like the thought that like, I have to do this, I have to, no, you don't.
Yep.
You don't. That's a mental barrier, and you're holding yourself back from that. So like, that's why I try to tell, like, we've been taught such shit. For
a long time.
Yeah, I don't know, if we wanted our society to be better, right, we would have a council of wise people giving us information that they went through an experience versus like the system that we have now, which is like, one of my mentors once told me, he's like, it's basically like there's 400-pound people trying to teach 420-pound people how to lose weight.
Yeah.
You're like, You don't know what the hell you're talking about either.
Yeah.
You're fat too.
That's exactly what's happening now.
Yeah.
100% exactly what's happening now. I was speaking with somebody about this where, because, you know, personal branding's become very popular and everyone's interested in growth. So you have people who have never had any growth talking to people about online growth. It's people with 150 followers telling people who have 100 followers how to get an audience. Like, it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? You need to have some credibility in life, in terms of assisting and teaching people, you know? So.
Yeah, and that's same thing when it comes to like college. Like I came up with this analogy the other day. It's like right now, if you were given the opportunity, you said, hey, you could learn how to play basketball from your high school basketball coach or like gym teacher, right? Not even the coach, the high school basketball gym teacher, right? Or LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Who would you choose? Most people are paying the gym like teacher to teach them how to make money. And that's literally what you're doing when you're learning from like how to make money, going to college and spending $100,000. Like you literally can go online right now and learn from people that actually have made money, right? For free most of the time on YouTube.
Yes.
You know? Or you could spend $100,000, go in debt, go learn, you know, at college from people that are theorizing and philosophizing on about things that like they've never actually experienced. And you're like, this is a terrible system.
Yeah. Like, it's a scam.
Yeah. And
it's a scam.
I think it's actually a really good opportunity for the entrepreneurs that like if you're actually interested in solving any problem, right? Like the school system, the great thing about the school system, I think, is because it is too big to fail almost, is a great opportunity for most people. Because if it's too big to fail, there's thousands and thousands of people employed, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. You know, they're not just going to unravel the school system.
Yeah, no.
But people are wising up to saying, I don't think that this is a good guarantee anymore, right? This is not a good deal anymore. And if I put a tenth of that money into actually something that will give me like a result, I'm gonna go that route. Yeah. So if you actually have skills, if you went through the fire like you have, and you have something of knowledge and of value to give, it's the biggest opportunity.
Yeah, like I was reading something the other day that like college application rates are like reducing a lot, right? But it's because of exactly what you said. You can find out what it is that you want to do with life, and for a fraction of the cost, learn it, right? And get some sort of result. People are customizing their learning a lot more due to online stuff. So like, okay, if I want to learn a video edit, I can hop on YouTube. I might be able to buy a course. I want to learn about growth or virality, I can hop on YouTube, I can buy a course, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than school. I went to university for 4 years, right? I was in like a media program, and it wasn't until my third year that I learned anything new that I didn't know before about music and recording and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until my third year I learned one thing that I used regularly, but I would have learned the same thing if I just went to somebody who ran a studio. Like, I would have learned it, right? So basically burnt through a bunch of money that I didn't have to learn one thing that I could have learned quicker and easier another way. So
yeah, and the reprogramming has to, like, all I knew even in like high school was like, if I go to college, somebody will pay me what they believe I'm worth. That's all I ever knew. I was like, I didn't know that, like, it's not, you'll never actually feel fulfilled, in my opinion, if you're paid what somebody else believes you're worth.
Yeah.
And you don't have any like autonomy over actually increasing that, like putting effort in, and the more effort I put in, the more valuable I become. Like, it's a very frustrating system when it's like, well, you know, Joe over here is working like so shitty, doesn't do anything, and I'm making the same amount as he is, and like because of whatever, like they can't fire him or whatever, it's like you're gonna obviously be resentful against the world if that's the case, right?
That's why I don't like I don't like commodified markets because of that. So like in a commodity market, the competition dictates the price. So if I sell paper, right? I sell a stack of 100 blank papers for $1, right? And you come to me to buy paper, but then Lucy down the road is deciding to sell that paper for 95 cents. Now I have to reduce my price to 92 cents, and it's a race to the bottom. It's a commodified market. And then in having a job, you're replaceable. You know what I mean? You're replaceable. Like other people can be hired for the same skills, et cetera, et cetera. I rather be in something where I can dictate the price due to the value I provide. I want to be able to sell something in a way that I'm like, it's worth this much, okay? It's worth this much, and I'll talk to the people who are willing to pay that.
Yeah, and
right?
and this is something like I had to learn, like just like you learned, being in the actual weeds of it, right? Like for instance, in insurance, that's what I'm in. A lot of times people see it as a commodity, right? Like, oh, well, I'm just going to compare insurance to insurance. And that's what, like, when clients will call me or prospective clients will call me, most of my clients now come from referrals, and I have over a 95% retention with my clients. Like, they stay with me, right? But it's not because I sell them a commodity. I really realized that, like, oh, if Joe Smith down the road be able to sell the exact same insurance policy as me, or Joe Namath on TV is selling it, it's like, how do I compete against the exact same thing? But there's, so I was like, okay, I don't want to sell a commodity. So I sell a service, and the service is peace of mind, that they have a reliable person, a likable character, a trustworthy human, a capable, person in their corner. So anytime somebody calls me and then like starts like asking me about specific commodity details, I go, ma'am, I don't know anything about you. I'm like, no offense. I'm like, I don't want to tell you any details about something that might just confuse you more than actually help you. I'm here to serve you, so you make sure that your situation is going to be different than your neighbor who told you about this, right? So we don't do that. I'll be happy to answer questions for that, but I'm like, this is stuff you can find on the internet, and compare side by side. I'm like, that's not what I do. What I do is I review your situation, and you tell me what your situation is. We review it, and then I can kind of give you a better understanding of how we serve you best. I don't want to just sell you something and then never talk to you again. I'm here to be your advisor, right? And so whenever you're listening to this, is like, whatever industry you're in, you can change it from a commodity to a service, a valuable service, no matter what you're in. If you're selling socks, it's the same thing. Like a couple of my buddies that I met down in Florida, they have a company called Nad's Underwear.
Nice.
Right? And literally it's like organic, non-polyester, underwear. But like they branded themselves as a different type of business than a commodity against, if you're trying to compete against Hanes or, all these other companies, it's a race to the bottom. They charge like $60 a pair of underwear. Like it's not a cheap pair of underwear, but like they're selling a service, a lifestyle, a community, right? It's a big difference. It could be a commodity. You could be in the commodity business, but the way you package it, right? How do you package yourself, your community, your service, all this stuff is very important.
The key to breaking out of a commodity business is value. That's exactly what you were describing. It's like, okay, you have something that's comparable to other things in the market, but what else do you provide that is going to make you stand out? So I look at this with like short form content agencies, for instance, right? Because short form right now is a commodity and it's a race to the bottom. Everyone is trying to undercut everybody else. Every day there are people in my inbox like, hey man, I'll do this for you, I'll do this, right? And it's all a race to the bottom. How much are you paying? I'll charge cheaper, bang, bang, bang. All a race to the bottom. But if you are in a short form content industry, what else can you provide to the client that is going to make them stick with you? Are you studying the algorithm? Are you assisting them in what content they can do? Do you understand virality? Are you posting it for them? Is it a done for you service? Like, how much more can you pack in to make it valuable? Because people, one, will pay more for that, and two, it's going to break you out of being a commodity.
Yeah, like John, who's going to be editing this video, so he understands this because he's been hanging out with me and he understands value, and he's been able to make an offer because it's very valuable to entrepreneurs, right? He's talking to the right person, and he knows what's valuable to them is speed and not having to think about, like, because I tell them, like, listen, they don't want to have to think about what they're going to say. Yep. They need prompt. They don't want to have to, like, do anything. You edit everything, and you just go talk to them, and they're willing to pay you for that if you're going to edit all the videos, create these shorts and these reels for them, and then basically plan it out for them for basically 2 months. And he's basically offering, hey, I'm going to offer you 2 months of done-for-you reels. You don't have to think about anything. I'm going to prompt you for everything, or I'll come shoot it for you, and we're going to do everything in less than a day. And a day, so this same kid that, you know, when you graduate from college, most people are like, oh, maybe I'm worth 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour. Mm-hmm. Well, he gets paid $2,000 a day now to go do that same thing, because he understood the value that he was able to provide to somebody, that time was more important for them, not having to spend their energy, right, on having to think about what prompts they're going to have to talk about. Like, they have the information, we have the information, but sometimes it's like, oh, I have to write out shit, I have to think about it. Yeah. You're going to take away from other things that I'm thinking about. I already know this stuff, just ask me shit. You know, I'll pop it out, right? Yeah. But I don't want to have to think about it. So, like, that in and of itself is very valuable.
Very valuable.
So yeah, like, he understood that, and we've kind of worked through it. So whatever you're at, he was 22 years old when he came up with this, you know, so it doesn't matter where you're at. Like, if you understand different people are at different stages, talking to the right person, like we talked about, you no longer become a commodity. You can increase your value by understanding humans, where they're at, the value proposition, what you're helping them with. Mm-hmm. So
also, if you become a multi-skilled individual, if you become a polymath, so like sales, for instance, because I know you come from a sales background, sales will teach you a lot of skills, right? You'll become a multi-skilled individual. But if I look at myself in the music industry, in the music business, as an engineer, I was incredibly valuable because I did far more than just engineer. There are people who, that's what they do. They record you, they mix it done, right? Me, I understand performance. I understand singing. I understand the mixing and the mastering and the engineering. I understand production. I understand marketing, because I had over 3 million streams. I understand branding. I understand all these different things. That happens in the studio now. I become far more valuable because I'm combining all these skill sets. It's like you're a singer. An engineer would just record you and expect you to figure everything else out. No, sing this harmony, change this line, maybe change that lyric. Like, all that type of stuff is incredibly valuable. I have people still calling me now, like, Seth, please, can I get a session? Like, please do this. I'm like, I'm too busy. I can't do it. Or you're going to pay a lot of money.
Right. So, like, what's the quote, the full quote, the, you know, jack of, or no.
So it's jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than a master of one.
But that second half, most people don't say it.
Yeah, most people don't know it.
Right? They don't know the second half is, but still better than a master of none. Right? Yeah. Of one. Or is it one?
Of one.
Of one, yeah, exactly. So if you're only trying to, you know, like, just, yes, of course, you know, you want to get good at something, right? Mm-hmm. But, like, don't negate all the other skills, right? Like, just because and this is, I think, holds people back too, is like their identity. Their identity becomes like, I am an insurance salesman.
Yes.
Right? Or I am, you know, an accountant, or whatever it may be. That becomes who you are. So you, like, forget, like, you're a multifaceted human being. Like, you need to learn a lot of things, right? And those other skills, you might not be the best at them, but you should know. Like, you shouldn't, I always say, like, you shouldn't delegate anything that you don't have a base foundation understanding.
I agree 100% with that, man. Like, oh man, I talk to people sometimes. They're like, oh, I can't do this. I'll just, like, hire somebody for it. I'm like, look, at least have a little bit of understanding of what it is, so you can, like, kind of speak the same language at least. So, like, me, when I was in the animation stuff, I learned a little bit about video editing, so I can talk with my editing team. I can be like, yeah, okay, I understand. I'm more empathetic to certain things that occur, where, like, other people would be like, yo, do this effect and make it crazy and blah, blah, blah. And like, the editors over there, like, dude, it's going to take, like, a day. What do you mean? Like, I have an understanding. And I really think, like, don't delegate things that you will not be willing to do yourself, or have just learned at least a little bit.
For sure.
I 100% agree with that.
And, like, I learned this just because I think out of cheapness, right? Like,
me too, actually.
You know what I mean? Like, because when you're first starting out, like, your time is not worth anything, right? So don't try and delegate your time out yet. Like, you're not valuable yet. So, like, when I first bought my first property, my first rental property, I didn't know how to do anything. But I YouTubed it and I figured it out, and, like, I figured out I'm also like not very patient and I'm not very good at renovating things, but I've done a lot of renovations and I know how to do things. I'm not going to do them now, but I know exactly how to tell my contractors what I want, my cleaning crew, and I know like what it's going to take, right? So like I'm not going to get screwed over.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's an important thing too, and be able to communicate it. So like you have a language that you're talking to this person on. You know, like I don't need to know all the specs about how to build a car, but like I should probably know like some details if I'm going to a mechanic. You know what I mean? So he's not taking advantage of me. And it's not, you know, these are just like these are skills to be a human. This has nothing to do with like, oh, this is how you have to run your business. No, you should just be a capable person, curious about how things work. You know?
Because life is like, it's almost like if you compare it to MMA, right? So let's say you're a phenomenal striker. You can win off of being a phenomenal striker, but what happens when they take you down to the ground? What are you going to do, right? So like, it would be helpful to have some ground game. It would be helpful to just be multifaceted and multi-skilled. And the people who are highly specialized, yes, they can make a lot of money, but they tend to work for the people who are polymaths. They tend to work for the people who have multiple skills or have vision or have these type of things.
And it's a more colorful life.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were talking about this before. There's so many people out there, like they're just so focused on like, I just need to make money and I'm just going to make money. But like they're sitting inside their house on a computer looking at screens and numbers and like crypto.
Yep.
I'm like, you're not experiencing anything.
Not living no life.
You can't even talk about anything. Like, have you ever talked to some of these kids? I mean,
Yes,
I've seen some of these kids that like they're very like wealthy. They've made like crypto pumps or whatever. They're running, you know, some agencies, some things, right? And they have a bunch of money, but like they sit behind a computer every day. I'm talking to them. I'm like, bro, you have nothing to talk about other than like your business and the computer.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not that interesting to me.
Life is for living.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of getting all the money if you don't live?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't mean that you go and trick off all your money and spend off all your money, which I have definitely learned, right? Like, I've definitely learned, because I used to be like, I was not very diligent about my money. I wasn't saving and all this type of stuff. But then things happen that rock you, and you're like, it probably would have been smart to be better with my finances. Sometimes pain teaches you, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, pain teaches you. So, for instance, even speaking about that, for the past 3 weeks, I've been in this back and forth with the bank and a payment processor. Because the bank sent back a payment for maybe like 30 grand or something like that. The bank sent back a payment. I've been back and forth with them. Be like, yo, if I never learned about finances and saving some money and shit, I would be in a problematic position right now. But I'm fine. Like, I've done good savings. I'll be fine, you know, for a good chunk of time. So I'm like, all right, it's not that bad. Let me just handle it and get it done. But if I wasn't diligent about money and thinking about that, then I'd be panicked. I'd be like, oh shit, what do I do? What do I do? How do I get this money? Blah, blah, blah. It'd be problematic, you know?
I remember, like growing up, I saw kind of like two different types of mentality around money. And it wasn't like extravagant, right? It was, the difference was, let's say if a refrigerator broke down, right? I saw one person freak out about it, right? Because they're like, oh shit, I gotta spend $1,000, or you know, like, and it was like very chaotic because like an emergency happened and you didn't have $1,000 to spend on that emergency. And then I saw another person that like a tire popped, or you know, and they're just like, yeah, get it fixed right now. Like the money solved that problem, and I no longer had to think about that thing, right? And I was like, I saw those two scenarios. I'm like, that's what money's for.
Yes.
It's to solve that like inconvenient thing that is going to occur, right? And I see that like I'm in the insurance business, right? And that's literally all insurance is. So like for me, I'll rather take a high deductible plan that has a $5,000, you know, worst case max out of pocket every day of the week, because, okay, let's just take care of it.
It's taken care
It's
of.
not, you know, it's just going to take, it's that, oh, that was an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Some people are like trying to nickel and dime, and they're focusing on minor things, and then they're not seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what money allows you to do. Money gives you the opportunity to think and to worry less about things, right? So
especially the dumb things.
Yeah,
these
like
are dumb problems.
The little foolishness, you know. It gives you the chance to like actually be able to have clarity, like we said before, where like you can saving. I did this in a new. I wrote about this in a recent newsletter where I say,
How do they subscribe to your newsletter first?
yeah. Go to SethDyer.com.
There you go.
There you go, and you'll be able to access the newsletter. It's called the Dyer Days. So I talk about this thing where basically saving or having some money is future-proofing yourself. Future-proofing yourself for a good opportunity that might happen or a bad one. Because let's say a good opportunity rolls by. You have the chance to do a property deal, right? Well, if you don't have any money, like, how's it going to work? Or other opportunities come around, business opportunities. Well, if you don't have any money, you've lost the opportunity. Bad things could happen, right? And now you have some money to handle the bad things. Tire pop, fridge broken, whatever. You have some money to handle that. You're future-proofing yourself. And it's not just money. It doesn't only have to do with money. You going to the gym is a form of savings. You are future-proofing your health. You may not deal with, health problems and mental problems and all these type of things by taking care of your health. Relationships are even a form of savings. You don't know if an opportunity comes by that you might need to call somebody who can assist you with whatever the opportunity is. It's like, oh, there's this deal that's here, this business opportunity, but I don't have all the skills for it, so I need to call my boy here who does have the skills for it, and let's partner in on this. If you don't have the relationships well maintained, which is a form of savings, then you can't do that. Or if something bad happens, you don't have anybody to call. Like, I don't know, let's say plumbing goes wrong. Maybe you have a plumber friend, and it could be helpful. So once again, it's thinking ahead. It's having those long time horizons, understanding that you are future-proofing yourself by saving money, by maintaining your health, by having good relationships.
Yeah.
They are all savings to me.
100%. I always call it the rainy day and the beach day.
Yeah.
You need to be prepared for both.
Yes.
Right? And I actually have a good story about you literally saying a property deal comes out. So like, that's a beach day, right? Like if an opportunity comes about, like if your boys want to go to the beach and you're not like, you have to go to work, well, you can't go to the beach, right? And same with like an opportunity. I was golfing with a friend at a country club that I was able to put myself in position to be at, and we were just talking, and he said, hey man, I know you're in real estate. One of my clients, he's an older guy, he has these 4 units, these 2 buildings that are right next to each other. He told me he was going to be selling them soon. He goes, I just figured I'd ask you about them. I was like, yeah, well, where's the address? He told me the address right there on the golf course. I didn't even look up the properties. I knew the address. I knew exactly where they were. They were located literally next to a college university football field. I was like, let's call him right now. I was like, okay. So we called on the golf course, called them. They hadn't even hit the MLS, which is the market.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. I was like, I'll take them. I'll have my realtor write you the contract. We'll get them over to you today. Wrote like literally no inspections, and it was a cash offer. So I was ready, right? I was like, I'm gonna do a cash offer, no inspection. I'm just gonna do a walkthrough tonight before we actually send it over. So we went over, walked through it. Okay, they're good. They're great brick buildings, whatever. Put the offer in, accepted it, signed it that night. It hit the MLS the next day. She got 25 offers the next day, way over list, right? Like they were bidding it up, but that's all right. I had the contract in, right? And that property, those 2 properties, I still own today. They're cash cow. All 4 are Airbnbs now. It literally paid. I more than paid the building off. Well, back. I paid cash for it. So I've made more money than what I paid out. The university, as soon as I bought them, the college university called me, tried to pay me 3 times as much as I paid for them. I turned it down, right? Because they're always going to want the properties.
Absolutely.
But the reason I'm saying this is because I was beach ready, right? I had that 6-pack when I wanted to go to the beach and I wanted to take my shirt off. I was ready to shine, right? And same thing goes for the rainy day, right? Like there's going to be rainy days, so you have to be prepared for those too. So I don't know. I think it's just it's a mentality of like that's what money allows you to do is be ready for the rainy days, right? And also be prepared for when the beach day, because those beach days maybe not come often, but when they come and they could change the whole trajectory of your life.
Change
right?
everything.
So, yeah, man, I don't want to hold you up too much longer. I know you're a busy man. If there's something that these men, hopefully, and these women that could just want to improve themselves, what's one thing that you think that they could do right now to at least start some momentum? Because momentum is the game changer, right? Momentum is the game changer.
It's a really good question. The one thing that people could do to start changing their lives I think it is. I'll just go off of what I did. I think it's changing the people in your circle, hanging out with new people.
That is a big momentum changer.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Changes everything. So it becomes your new reality.
Yeah.
When your new reality is people talking big money deals and all working out and all being fit and all having good relationships and all that, well, you got no choice but to do the same.
It's inevitable. It hurts. Yeah, it hurts more to not be part of the group, right? So why not make it hurt to not be part of the good group?
Exactly.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for listening, Seth. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Appreciate you. Great convo.
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon. Peace.